Hey everybody, welcome to Houdini Hangout. It is the 12th of October. Glad to have you with us tonight. So tonight, planning to try to do a little update on some of the stuff that we were working on last week. Someone had suggested, "Hey Zach, how's it going, man? Good to have you with us." Um, yeah, so someone had suggested, "Hey, how do you make a cookie break?" And how would you go about breaking it? And I was like, well, probably rigid bodies is a good way to do that. And so we fumbled around with that for a little while, and when it didn't work, I was like, well, yeah, hey, how's it going, Anil? I think it was actually Anil that mentioned it last time. So I was foiled by it, and I was kind of a little frustrated, spent the next day working on it, and then finally Friday I tried to do something Thursday night I tried messing around with it, couldn't figure it out. Cookie guys here. Yes. Yes, the cookie guy. Um so I was messing around with it Thursday night. Then on Friday I was like, I'm going to try to make this as simple as humanly possible. So I had like very very few pieces actually animated. And that I was thinking would be a little bit easier, but unfortunately it wasn't. So I was like, okay, that's really suspect. So I I talked I messaged some people in the company Discord to see if I could get some some better information about maybe what I was missing. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to adjust this microphone. I'm just going to raise it up. There we go. That's probably better. Anyways, so I was like, I'm going to talk to people in our Slack channel, see what I could figure out. And somebody got back to me, and basically the solution is a little not as simple as you'd think, but part of it was that you should be using soft constraints instead of glue constraints. So that's unfortunately a very simple solution, but there's also a couple other things. So I wanted to take a look at it again and see what we could do, better to make this process. So yeah, so that's we'll dive into that first. See if we can't make this work a little bit better, and then we'll go from there. So as always, if you guys have any thoughts or questions or want to throw something in the chat, please do. Certainly, there's no stupid questions, or I'm not always going to have the right answers. So love for you guys to throw some, your suggestions in chat. And yeah, I'm not the expert at Houdini. I don't know everything. So as was well on display last week, but yeah. So with all of that, we'll kind of jump into Houdini, and I'll try to pick it up sort of where we left off last week. This is going to be a little different, and I'll show a couple things real quick, kind of relating to that. And actually, as I was starting to talk here, I remembered something that I should have changed anyways. So I'll change that, and then we'll go from there. So all that to say, let's get started. So, all right. So I've got this setup that we were kind of working with from last week. We just have a simple like piece of geometry here, and we were gonna break it up and make it fracture and stuff like that. So, up to this point, it's pretty much self-explanatory. It's just modeling and stuff like that. And at this point, I was just, like I said, when I was talking, kind of introducing everything, I remembered that actually it's a little bit easier if I keep these ends from just being a fractured bunch of pieces and things like that. So what I'm going to do there is I am going to Boolean it first, and then we can kind of go from there. So let's do that instead. So I am going to get rid of this attribute paint. We don't need that. This fracture we're going to come back to in a second, but let me just shift this down for a second here. So let's just make a box. We will, I'm just going to set this up like that. Oh, also, I'm going with a little bit of a different layout this week. Let me know if it's better or worse or whatever. I saw somebody doing this. I don't know if it was, gosh, who was it? Was it maybe it was Mark Fancher or somebody had something that was similar to this, or I don't know. And I was like, oh, that's really nice. I actually kind of like that. So I'm going to try this layout a little bit different from the default. You know, maybe it'll work out well. Maybe it won't. But anyways, yeah. So let's Boolean this. If I can type. So I'm going to do Boolean shatter, and I don't want to put it there. I want to put it there. And let's drop this in here. So the Boolean shatter is going to divide this up into separate elements for me. So I'm just going to move this like so. Yep, that looks good. So we've got this now cut into several pieces. And what I can do from here is I could just, I could make a, just some group attributes or like a class attribute or something like that in order to make this a little bit easier. So let's just do that. I will do, I'll just do a connectivity here. And we can use that to just get an attribute for each of these different pieces. What that's going to do is set a class attribute. We can actually set it to a primitive attribute. That's fine. Here we can just see, okay, we've got class 012. Great. And I'm just going to do some groups here just with this geometry. And this thing over here, I'll show you in a second, which actually is kind of cool, but now I'm realizing I probably don't need it, so that's okay. Anyways, we'll just go from here. So let's take this. We'll call this, maybe we'll just call this cookie middle. And what we can do here is we can say at class equals, it's probably going to be 1, not 100% sure. Nope, wrong one. Let's see, 0. There we go. Okay. So that's the middle. And then we can just do that a couple more times. So the nice thing about that is obviously we're doing this a little bit procedurally, and we can get some, we can have control that no matter how we cut this box, it should take these classes and divide it up. So cookie, we'll just call this left. Do class equals 1, I think it was. Yep. And then same thing over here. Call this cookie right. And class should equal 2. I'm just going to make sure my microphone is okay. My wife had a meeting today, so I'm just going to double check and make sure that this is going fine. So hold on one second. Here. Yep. Check everything, make sure it is looking good. Okay, cool. It is. Sorry, my apologies. I just want to make sure everything's good. I've had that happen before, so I've had it where it's coming through my microphone and not through this one, through the webcam microphone, and it's like sounds like I'm a million miles away and horrible. So okay, so we've got our different groups set up here. We can visualize those. I'm just going to hide this. We can visualize these groups. So we've got left, middle, right. Great. So this material fracture, instead of having it, the initial fracture working on this density attribute, I'm just going to say scatter from volume. We don't need to worry about density. And I'm going to say instead, we're just going to do the middle. So we're not going to do the sides. So now the middle will be fractured, but the 2 sides will not be. And in fact, I probably won't want all these groups here, but we can leave them for right now. You can see here's some groups that this node is creating. For now, that should be fine. So what I had done before was I had added some interior detail here. And this was working really well for adding the detail, it felt like it was working a little bit better than just doing it by default in this node. Reason being, let me just look at this again, exploded view. Let's throw, oh, hey, jump inside. That's what we want. All right, so let's just explode this and look at it. So, yeah, obviously these left and right ones aren't going to explode exactly properly, but let me just see if I can make this work a little better. There we go. So, what we were seeing before was these, the inside of these were kind of having some issues when I was trying to break up the whole thing by default. So I was just using this interior detail here to kind of add noise like after the fact. So you can actually start it like this, where it's just kind of fractured, kind of like a convex hull that it's created. And then you can add the detail in from there on the interior faces. So I think all this is using is, it's using an interior group of inside, which is this right here. So it knows which parts of that to add to. And the reason that I was doing it that way, and it seemed to work a little bit better in some cases, was that when you do it all in this material fracture node, sometimes the this proxy geometry, this white that you're seeing here, isn't perfectly synced up with the shape of the kind of distorted interior elements and things like that. So I wanted to make sure that they were matching up a little more closely. In fact, this one here looks like it's still off a little bit. So, it's just because it's getting shifted over and things like that. So, something maybe to take a look at. But, the interesting thing here is that it's way faster, because you're just doing it on those interior faces. And let's see, if I turn this even down some more, it might be, yeah. So it's a little bit different the way that it's creating these interior faces. But anyways, doesn't totally matter. We can do it with or without that. So we can just turn that off for now. But just understand that is possible. Oh, that's weird. We're getting kind of some big chunks up here. I wonder if there's a reason for that. I'm just going to remove this and just do a new one just in case. Material fracture. Let's drop that down. And let's make sure, get rid of that. Just make sure that this is working properly. Middle. Okay. I was wondering if maybe I was fracturing it by an attribute before. I was kind of wondering if maybe it was that, but let's just see. We'll just throw some seed values in here and see if we can get a little bit better, a little bit better breaking here. Yeah, it's not bad. Oh, I know why it's not splitting those other ones off. Those don't have names. Give those a name. So let's see here. I'm just going to do a name attribute just so that these two pieces have names. Then they'll actually split out of the way. So we're going to do that. We'll do left and we'll say let's call it left. Yep, there we go. And then if we do this and add another one in for the right, call that right. Cool. All right, so now we've got names in there and that should be happy. So, all right, we can take a look at this and make sure we're, it's interesting. We're getting kind of it's like all focused over here. It's really weird. I'm going to just try one other thing here. I'm going to turn this edge divide off just so because we don't need those top loops, and see what happens here. Ooh, look at that. We got those changed actually. So let's just adjust that real quick. So this one, okay, cool. This one is 0. Yep, cool. Just to reiterate here, left is off too. Weird. 1. So then this one should be 2. So that's interesting. Yeah, it just changed the order of it. Let's see if that gives us any better fracture here, because we don't really need all those extra faces now, just the way I'm doing it. Yeah, it's not really that much better. That's really odd. Maybe if I do this, if I up the resolution of this volume here. It's interesting. Oh, that's weird. I did 3.14 pi. Well, anyways, it'll work. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be something. There we go. That's maybe a little better. I just don't like these big pieces over here. It's kind of annoying. Let me just see if I turn this off. Maybe it's something there. Nope. That is really strange. What we could actually do here, now that I'm thinking of it, is I could do a blast, and I could put my own seed points in there, and that'll at least get us started. So let's do that. This is going to be extra Voronoi points. And I'm just going to say maybe 1 for right now. And then we can use input points as well. And this blast is going to be the middle. Not selected. And I'm just going to put a scatter underneath that. Oh, wow, that's funky. It's feeding itself in. That's a weird effect. Feeding the Voronoi points in from itself into itself, so it's like cutting it in a really weird way. All right, let's just do a scatter. I can use the volume scatter. That might be the best way of doing this. That is a AE-lib node, but basically it's just creating a volume and then scattering points inside of it. So let's just do 100 here. Just lowering the resolution so we get a nice separation there, and turn up some relax iterations. Let's see what that gets us. Yeah, that's looking a lot better. Okay, cool. So we've got some pieces in the middle here that we're going to fracture. At this point, we do... Why is this giving me an error? Sometimes just diving in will help. Yep. I'm going to show the constraints as well, so we can see that there's constraints in between these. I'm going to turn that off. So we could use these. We don't have to. We can kind of figure out how to make that work to our advantage. But we could certainly use those for soft constraints if we wanted to. So anyways, we're going to keep going from there. But so what I was doing here before was kind of interesting. I was actually I was packing these points first and making a invoke SOP using this compiled block. It's almost like looks like a for each loop, but instead of a for each loop, it's like it's its own little loop here that you can invoke multiple times. So I can invoke that on both of these paths, and it does exactly what's here. It's a little goofy to set up at first. You might not totally get it, but what you do basically is you take, I won't need this block. It won't really do anything because I'm changing the way I'm working here, but as I'm going, but this invoke SOP, basically you take the end here of the compile block, drag it up there, and then you set a name up here, or at least this is how it's worked for me. So there might be other ways to set it up, but so I set this up as called group setup because I was setting up my groups here. And then in this invoke node, you just put group setup there, and that's that. And then you can have it copy as many times as you want. It's a nice way of not having to have like, having a some function done multiple times to multiple streams of geometry without having to do something, crazy and like, I don't know, make an HTA or something, something like that. So, it just makes for kind of a nice way to like kind of organize your your graphs and things like that. So, but we're not going to use those in this case because I changed the way I was doing it on the fly. So anyways, we won't need those either. So let's take those out. Okay. So now what we need is to make our constraints. In fact, I'm going to make a few more here. Let's do like 200 because that's really, oh, you know what? That's right. I was going to cut this up again. So let's just enable the secondary level of fracturing, and that should add in some more fractures there. And that should, yeah, great. That'll be good. Cool. Okay, so now we've got some good like secondary fractures there on the next level. So what we can do then is we want to have this object here connected to a bunch of these and this one connected to a bunch here. So let's do some RBD constraints from rules. I'm just going to drop this in here. So the way that this works, and I think we probably talked about this a little bit last time, but I've kind of had a little bit more of a chance to play with it. So we can do a connection type from the center of mass to something else. We're doing them from the center of mass of these objects. You can see here that this is the center of this big chunk, and it's going to connect to the next closest things, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to do the group as a tag. This is just one way of working. You could also do them as groups. So it just really depends on how you want to work with it. But I think it's nice because I can have tags maybe separately from groups depending on how I'm combining things together. So in this case, I'm going to call these unbreakable. Although they are technically glue and they could be broken, I'm going to keep them unbreakable in this case. So I'm going to say all to group, and I'm going to say the group that we're going to here is going to be middle. And interesting. Ooh, that's weird. Hold on. The names are looking a little funny here. Let me just make sure I'm not missing something. Here. Right. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually take this name away for a second because that is, I think, goofing up this naming here. Yep, that's much better. And then what I can do from here is I can say, just going to drop this in here, and now we should have good names for those as well. So those are right, left, and then piece. Yeah, okay, great. That's a little bit better. I was like kind of confused as to what was going on there. So here's all the pieces. Oh, interestingly, oh yeah, there we go. Cookie middle. Okay, so we have this now connecting from all to the cookie middle group basically. So what I'm going to do is turn the search radius down a little bit. I could probably also do it this group to group. Say cookie left. Let's try this instead. Cookie left, cookie right, cookie middle. Okay. Interesting. I'm not sure why that's going to the middle. That doesn't make sense. That is really odd. Shouldn't be doing that. It's not the naming. thing. There we go. That is really odd. We had, okay, weird. Okay. Well, I'm just going to change the way I'm doing this. I don't know why. So let's, oops, click on that. Let's do that. And at least it'll look like something. Yeah, great. So, all right. I think we're good now. Okay, so we got center of mass there. Let's do group to group. Perfect. Okay, because yeah, you want these to be centered there. I don't know. I don't know what that was doing, but oh, it probably wasn't properly. Oh, I know why. Because this this input also needed those names as well. So I guess I could technically have done this. Yeah, because these names, this part here is actually going to both sides here. So this is our proxy geometry that's going right here, and this is our high-res geometry. So I believe now this actually should work, and it does. So I could do that instead. And then get my proper names and turn this off, and great. We should be good. We should have proper names for those other ones. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, my bad. Okay, so we've got those. Let's turn this down. We don't need it to go as far. So the search radius here is basically just going to say how far from this piece are we going to look into this next group. So I'm just going to turn this up, wherever I think it might work. Sure, that looks fine. Maybe we'll just do 0.2, something like that. So this way, some of these edge pieces are going to be included from the middle group, because the middle group is going to have all these soft constraints kind of tying them together, and then they're going to be glued to the outside pieces that are going to stay still. This is kind of what we were doing last time. It's just we're going to do it the right way now. So okay, so those constraints are good. So let's take a look at what we have here. So we have constraints that are going on the outside here. These inner pieces are all glued. So it looks like we've got the constraints that we need. So now we need to do constraint properties. So let's do RBD constraint properties. And we can kind of do these one at a time. So now, did I not? Oh, yeah, I didn't do that here. So let's do tag breakable. And so now we should have these constraint tags here. So we'll call these unbreakable. We'll say those are glue. We'll put these to -1 so that they are for sure not going to break. And that should be really all we need to do. Oops, F1. All we need to do for that. So we've got those properties there. So we'll just say unbreakable glue. And then this will be unbreakable constraints. Great. Okay. So that should all be good. What's the next thing we need to do? Another constraint. So this we need to set up for the soft constraints. So we're going to take the middle ones and we can say fracture 1 and fracture 2. So those are the two levels of fracture that are happening inside of the RBD material fracture. So those are two groups that get set up here. What we're seeing that from is right here, fracture ID. So each of these gets their own like ID basically that it uses, and the constraints. Yeah, what we can do is call these soft instead, because those are going to be soft constraints. That's fine. 10,000. Oh, you know what? Actually, we probably won't even need to do that. Let me just take a look at what those will look like. I forgot that could actually do it inside. So let's look at our constraint geometry here. So we have soft constraint type. Do we have anything set up for those? Nope. There's our unbreakable glue right there, which is good. And it has a strength of -1. And here are our strength properties for the soft constraints there. Cool. So we don't actually even have to worry about this because that material fracture can actually do those constraints that we need as soft constraints. So that's good. If we wanted to, we can do something like a, let's see here, there's a convert, which is where is it here? RBD convert constraints. And what this can do is actually change the type of constraints that you're doing. So I'll put this into the mode here where we can see the exploded view. Maybe we'll look at it just like that. And what we can do here is, let's say we wanted to do the constraint name as soft, let's just say, and we wanted to change the way that this was going to be done. What we could do is do something like surface points. We could make more constraints in between these individual objects. Now, basically the difference there is just going to be kind of how it kind of links them together, right? In this case, you could actually have the top constraints break without the bottom ones breaking, whereas if we were doing it just with these center of mass constraints, there's one constraint, like, so for example, between these two here, there's one constraint that's going between them. So they really have like kind of limited ways that they're able to kind of move and adjust. So it could be a better way of doing it. In this case, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference, but just something to keep in mind that could be beneficial. So we could always play around with that in a second, but we'll just use it as the standard ones for right now. So, okay, cool. We got that. All right. I think that's pretty much all we need to do there. So then what we can do is do a configure, RBD configure, sorry. Yep. And this is going to do all the packing and things like that we need. So now we have our packed fragments. We also have our groups still, cookie left, middle, right. So that's great. And then we can do an RBD bullet solver. Drop all these into here. I'm just going to set up the ground plane. And now when we do this, it should fall and they all break, and it does not what we would want it to. So that's okay. All right, so we've got that. So we're getting somewhere here with this. But what we need to do is have a way to say a couple different things, right? We need to say that there's some that are going to be animated, right? We need to animate them pulling apart, and we also need to make sure that the ones in the middle keep kind of their active properties. I'm going to disconnect this for right now. We don't really need that anymore. We've investigated our pieces, and I'll just keep it in case we need it. But okay, so I think I still have, yep. So what I can do is I can set some properties here. So what I'm going to do is do cookie middle. I'm going to call that active and then animated 0. So animated, so the difference here is that if you have animation, like for example, like we're going to use the guide simulation, but a little bit differently than what I had originally done. If you have something like that that's animating, that is the proper way of doing it. Like if you have like all your packed primitives and then you're going to just animate those points, that's an animation. If this isn't packed going into the bullet solver, and you have like changing points, positions for your geometry, like you haven't packed it and they're just all moving still as individual points, that's where the deforming comes in. And that's kind of the difference between those two. So just something to keep in mind, that's the difference here. And that was what I was explained. So the middle is going to just be active, not animated. And then we can do for the left and right, we can say active 0, animated 1. And so what we are going to do here is we are going to use a node I didn't even know existed, which is RBD transform. So this is a really interesting node because it actually, like, we were doing all this annoying stuff where it was like, oh, I'm going to take this one bit of it over here and move it off to the side and blah, blah, blah. Well, this does it all in one. And the way that this works, I'm going to have this off to the side because we're not going to use it in this stream. But the way this works is it'll transform everything at the same time. So we can take a group, for example, cookie left, and transform it, and it transforms everything all at once. So it transforms all streams at the same time. And I believe here, yeah, you can see that this is doing some stuff internally where we're transforming and doing some things like that. These are probably all tied to that transform up at the top level. But it's basically doing all that annoying stuff for you all in one node, which is really great. So yeah, so we're just going to pull this to the left. Maybe we'll have it go from frame 6. We'll start it at 0. And to frame 24, we'll go to negative 0.5. Cool. Then I'm just going to grab another one. Let's just do RBD transform. So we'll just say that this is left. This is right. Oh, I didn't keyframe that last one. Oops. Grab the right group. 0.5 and it'll just be 0 here. And I think, all right, I'm going to have to try to remember. There's a couple things here that I got to set up. So, okay, cool. So let's turn this back here. Yeah, it's going good. It's going really good so far. But at least those pieces stayed still, so that's cool. All right, so we need to turn the guides on. So let's turn this on. He used target velocity, the gentleman who showed me this. So let's see if we get, nope, still not doing its thing. So, oh yes, that's right. So I want to turn these off, and this one was off as well. Let's see if we're getting anywhere yet here with those transformations. Nope, not yet. Now, possibly the issue could be that the way that this material fracture has made these soft constraints might not be what we want, so we might have to go through and change that, but we'll see if this works or not. So the other thing we're going to want to do here is we'll do these distance thresholds. We're going to turn this down a little bit. That's going to basically be how far it has to move for those constraints to actually get broken. That's not quite what we need yet. And then we also need, oh, there was another one in advanced that we set up. Yep. So I'm going to turn this off. And what he had was the group that we're using, I believe was like that. Just make sure my properties are all coming through here. Got right. Got left. All right, let me just see if that's better for us. Let's see here. So if we do at, this is actually how he had it, was at name equals left and at name equals right, or the similarly. So what we'll do is we will just turn this off, and we can just do a blast up here, and we'll just add those constraints in, because I'm guessing that it's just not setting these constraints up properly. This is a little different from how I did it last time, so we'll just delete those. Let's turn that off. So then we'll do RBD constraints from rules. Just do one more here. And do a tag. Call this one we'll just call these breakable. So now we should have breakable pieces as well here. So we should have unbreakable. And if we scroll down, we'll have breakable as well. And what we're going to use for this is we'll just use the input group of cookie middle, and this should make our internal constraints here. Just double check. Yep, cool. All right, so we'll say icons. And then squish those together a little bit. And then we can do another RBD constraint properties right here. It's interesting. It only took that one. It's too many. Couldn't figure out how to do them all. All right. Oh, cool. Good. That's what we wanted. Undo that. Thank you. All right. So we want these to be soft. Yeah, maybe it wasn't setting some things that we needed it to set. Do constraint group as breakable. Cool. Start it with stiffness of 10,000. Cool. All right, let's try that out. See where we get with that. Yeah. Now we're doing much better. Okay, so we've got our unbreakable and breakable constraints. What I'm going to actually do is turn these off just for right now, just so I can see why these outer ones aren't moving. So we'll just kind of let that be its own thing for right now. Oh, I don't want to transform the constraints. I remember that. I don't think that's really going to affect it too much, but just something to keep in mind. All right, I'll change that just so we've got that. We're going to want to have this as well. I think those were around 500 in his, but we'll see. Do I have this in the right one? Guide sim. Yep. Okay, cool. Okay, so these are definitely being guided, so that's cool. Question is, why are they not animating? So we have those guiding. Oh, the other really good thing to note here is that we have these constraints are working as well. So it's holding those constraints together, the ones that we set as the unbreakable constraints. So that's a good thing as well. Probably just missing something stupid here. That did I not set those up as animated properly? Maybe that's what it was. Probably something dumb like, oh, there we go. There we go. Hey, yo, there we go. Yeah. So the problem was I didn't, they're supposed to be active and animated, apparently, not inactive. So active and animated. So now we're getting somewhere. So let's take this and this. Yeah, let's loop those around. That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. That's an infinite loop. Please don't crash. Come on. Ah, one bad click. Well, that was fun. Sorry about that, guys. Hopefully my autosave caught it because that, wow, that is disappointing. Well, let's see where we were. Yeah, that's an oof. I agree. I agree with that statement. All right. Luckily, we're not too far off. Let me just double check where we got here before. Constraints are off. This is yeah, we're close though. Don't worry, we're good. All right. I think that's gonna more or less do it. Oh, you know what? That's right. I'm gonna turn that off as well. The distance to strength for some reason was off. I didn't ask him. Oh yeah, like dragging too far. Yeah, actually, one of the monitors I use is a Wacom tablet. My wife has a Cintiq over here, and so I could do. I guess I could work with the Wacom, but I've never gotten into that for 3D stuff. Like I've done it a little bit before for like maybe MoGraph stuff or I don't know, whatever. But I've never done that. I like the two monitor thing too much, and it's too much of a pain to kind of switch back and forth. But at least with a Cintiq, it feels a little more of a pain. Okay, let me just make sure where we were here. Okay, soft. That all looks good. Okay, we didn't lose much. We didn't lose much. In fact, I'm going to save this as the other one because I had saved a recovered one and I meant to adjust it. So, yes. Okay, so we're going. We're cooking now. All right, so let me just change the visualization here. So what this is going to be controlled by is it's a little hard to explain exactly how this is going to work because it's kind of like loose. You know what I mean? Like you'll see that it's a little bit looser than what you might expect from a traditional like animated simulation. But I think it works pretty well in this scenario. So what it's going to do is try to target the velocity of its of those two pieces that are moving, and it's going to kind of loosely have them constrained. So it's going to add that velocity in to them and allow that force to then break those constraints in the middle. So this really is mostly going to be controlled by how these break here. So we can set the distance threshold to maybe 0.1. Then we can look at the force threshold as well. So let's just see what this is doing first of all, and then we'll kind of go from there. Yeah, so it's getting a little funky here. We're going to turn the substeps up and make that work a little bit better. One thing that I actually did was, yeah, I think it was maybe drag spin is what I want. Don't want there to be as much ability for them to just kind of go crazy spinning. So that will hopefully give it some. These guys are obviously freaking out, but we can make that work. Um, the other thing you can do as well is add. You can go inside of here and add a pop speed limit if you want to, and that can work as well. But we can just leave that on for right now, just to kind of give us some beneficial extra little things. Okay, so what we can do is we can adjust the forces here. So let's look at, where was that? Visualization. Can turn off the ground. And what we can look at is constraint geometry. And what we're going to do is force. we're going to use force. So we're going to say show guides. Actually, yes. So what we can do here is, as long as you're like selected on this, and what I did is just hit escape and then enter to make sure that we're in this kind of selected state. You can use 1 to 3 to change your views. So what I'm going to do is change it to 2 for constraint geometry. You can also look at proxy if you want to, but in this case, geometry and proxy is basically the same. You can also use 4 to toggle. 5 will change the inspector. It's interesting. Oh yeah, maybe this here. But anyways. Cool. All right. So what we're going to see is this force is going to start to up, right? So we're going to turn this on. So we're going to see the force kind of get adjusted here. And as it gets to a certain level, it's going to break. You can see the maximum here is 496, which makes sense. It's not going to allow it to go anywhere past 500. So cool. All right. I mean, that's working. Let's change this though a little bit. Let's try to change the constraints. Maybe we'll half it. See what it looks like with 250. Should be a little bit of a cleaner break, I think. So let's see. No, actually, maybe not. All right. So the other thing we could do here is we could add a distance threshold and make this maybe even a little smaller. So if it gets past a certain distance, it's going to break. Okay, cool. That's working. The other thing I was thinking about when I was working on this the other day, actually, is that a lot of times I feel like these hard and soft constraints, you want to actually take them and what you want to do is actually have them be scaled. So I kind of am curious about that now that I'm thinking of it. So what I've done before is, let's see, where would we do this? The breakable ones. Is this adding rest length to it? No, it's not yet. Okay, cool. So let's do it up here. So let's try this out. Not sure if this is 100% going to work, but we're going to put a primitive primitive properties. That's right. They renamed it. So this used to just be the primitive SOP, but now it's called, okay, no, I don't, primitive property. So what we're going to do is do a transformation on it, and let's do source group breakable. And what we can do is scale them. That's weird. Oh, I think there's 2 points here. I just want to make sure. No, it's just 1 point. Okay, so that's the problem. These need to all be separate. So, what is it? Point split. I think that's what it is. Yes, I think that's right. I wonder if it's not sending that constraint tag there. That might be the problem. So what I've seen before with these is oh, you know what? That's right. I'm going to do these just for the group. Just do it for same thing here. So I've done this before with hard constraints where you want them to be scaled down to just so both points are in the same spot. I'm not sure exactly what the reasoning for that is, but anyways, let's just leave this for now. Let's go back and keep trying what we're doing here, because was able to get it to calm down before. So let's see if we can do it here. All right, so let's just up the setup here so we can do some more constraint sub iterations. So let's just do like 20. Let's also give it maybe an extra sub step or so. Let's just see what happens here. What is going on there? That's weird. Just reset the viewport. Okay, just some persistent stuff. If you don't have labs installed, install labs because it has this little nice reset viewport thing. That is, I've heard that the viewport is something that we are going to be tweaking in upcoming versions of Houdini. So your viewport troubles hopefully will be a thing of the past soon. So anyways, just a little bit of good news there. Kind of a poorly known secret that the Houdini viewport is janky. Okay, so it's getting a little bit more stable. So you just need to throw some more substeps at this, basically, just to make sure that all the constraints are being solved properly and stuff like that. So, let's see if this is enough. This might be enough to just do the constraint iterations by themselves. That's looking a little bit better. So let's just check this out here. Constraints. Let's try back to 500. So it's kind of an interesting thing because you can see it like the actual force that it takes to rip it apart is part of what is going to almost drive your animation. Yeah, we're still getting some weird little sub-steppy things there. That stinks. Try switching those to hard if we wanted to. I'm not sure if hard or soft has any difference in the stability. I was playing around with it a little bit. I actually want to try that again now because I wonder if I was seeing those scaling properly, but there was like a little remnant in the viewport. So it might have been that. Yeah, there we go. So the other interesting thing that we could use to cause maybe less of them to break is we could up our search radius a little bit here. So we obviously want to make sure that there's a gap between those, right? But we could up the search radius a little bit. That'll make sure that these middle ones are, that those are still going to come apart. But now there's a lot more that are like firmly glued in place. So there we go. We got something going on there. Piece falls off at the end. So I think we're starting to get there. Like obviously you could tweak this. You could make it do other things that you might want it to. But this is kind of the you're getting a little bit of interesting animation here where it's kind of like starts to pull. Like you can see here that these are like pulling apart, but it kind of takes until the actual things break for it to snap apart. So it's kind of a really interesting way of like kind of doing that animation. If we were to change this guide here to be velocity, it's going to be a little bit more closely tied to this actual animation here, and it's not going to yeah, well, I didn't solve the problem. It was some folks at Side Effects, so big props to them. Oh, in fact, look at that. It's not even breaking it in this case. It's not putting enough strain in it with the velocity method. You can see right here that our maximum strength is getting up to like close to 500, and now it's looking like it's... Oh, wow. That's funny. That's way more intense to do it that way. So you can get different solutions to this in different ways. You could obviously kind of bend it in half or do something like that. Um, you can do a bunch of different things, but they each have their own unique, ways of doing things. So you can kind of work on it from there. Um, I really do think that this hard. Let me just try this one more time. I really think if we do this split, is it vertex split or point split? I can never remember. Oh, weird. I don't know what the difference is between those two. Looks like there's some. It's the same node, just with that turned on. Interesting. All right, so we'll do this. I'm gonna try this one more time, just because I think it actually did work, and I just wasn't seeing the viewport update. So there's all those, and let's do a primitive properties. If you guys are ever interested in some Houdini history, um, the really interesting thing is that there used to actually be. Oh yeah. Yep. So that is working. There used to be the point. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't directly follow the animation. And in fact, I think, Zach, that makes a more interesting animation in that case. Like it's helping to drive it, right? I mean, the more force you put into that initial kind of pull of the cookie, the more that you're going to have it closely follow, because it's going to be adding more force. Obviously, the speed is going to be directly, connected to the force. Um, Sounds like I'm talking about Star Wars. But yeah, so that I think, yeah, in this case, we're not directly animating the cookie with those properties. Now, the other thing I'm kind of wondering, and I hadn't actually tried this yet. Well, let me try this first, see if I get any better results here. So again, I'm going to change this to be just for the breakable ones. Yep. And then same thing here. I'm going to take this, copy it, do this for primitives, do that. Okay, great. So now, yep. That's exactly what we wanted. So now each of these, so like if I select, let me see, I'm going to select these right here. So these two, let's just see, only the selected ones. So those 2 points are connected to piece 0, whatever, 50, 092. There's 2 points right there, but they're now on top of each other in space. Rest length is still the same. That's fine. Okay, cool. So let's just try this. Let's see what happens here. I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen, but we can give it a shot. Let me turn this off. I don't need to be selecting that. Properties. Man, why does it keep doing that? It's so weird. Oh, right. I have set only selected, so that's not going to show anything. Okay. It's all looking good here. Oh, another thing too, just to keep in mind, is that you can actually, with these kind of constraints, constrain position only, rotation only, things like that. So, it's something to keep in mind, that those are things that you can constrain in this case. So you can actually have things rotating freely with their positions constrained, or vice versa. So kind of weird, but something you could do. Let's just see what this does. I'm not sure if this is going to work any better or not. I'm going to turn this back down just to see if it's any better. We'll see. No, way worse. Oh, okay. The thing that I want to set is their rest length to 0. Let's try that, because the rest length is what's making that pop open, because it's like seeing it and going, like, kind of exploding. So let's just see if that works. I'm just gonna do a vertical. what I was saying before is that there used to be before, I think it was before Wrangles, there were primitive nodes and point node. I don't even think there's a point node anymore, right? Oh, there is a point node, but it's different. It's sort of different. The old one used to look kind of like this primitive node, and it would have this like attributes here and these kind of things, like all these weird stuff on it. So that was kind of pre-Wrangle world. All right, let's just do at rest length equals 0 because we want it to be 0, I think. Let's try that. Not sure if that's going to work any better, but we'll see. Well, it's definitely more stable. That's interesting. It's like a little funky here because I think it broke inside of there, but like I think one of them might have broken there. So let's see here. What is it? Constraints. That's right. So this was the thing. It took me a while to figure this out because I was like, so usually these show when there's a change inside of them, but constraints doesn't show that for some reason. It doesn't show that this has been changed. So I'm like, wait, where did I change that? Anyways, let's try that just out of curiosity. Nope, just as funky. Okay, one more thing, and then I'll show you the debris stuff after this. It's the glue. This is what I want to change. Let's try it, changing it to hard, just for kicks. It's really the same thing you can see here, soft and hard. And this should have been my clue, was that this right here, soft and hard, has all these breaking constraints, but glue isn't in there because glue doesn't break from forces like that, from just stretching forces. So let's see if this works any better. Who knows? Maybe. Just up those a little and see where we get with that. I wouldn't say it's any more stable. So it's really just making sure that you give it a decent amount of iterations and things like that for your constraints. So just, something to keep in mind. So like, maybe adding another couple sub steps there, things like that, just to make sure that it can solve those constraints. Yep, cool. Okay, so now the other thing that we can do here that's kind of interesting is we can do a debris source. So let's do a debris source, and we'll play around with this a little just to see. So we have simulated arrest geometry. We're just going to use the simulated geometry here. So here's our geometry coming in, right? So let's just template this so we can see it. And here is our debris source node. And so what we are going to do here is we're going to use this to source debris coming off of these, off of this simulation, like maybe like little tiny particles or whatever. So you can see here that we've got some stuff going on. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do we have RBDIO? Yeah, we do. Okay. I'm just going to cache this out while I'm chit-chatting. What is this last? I'm not even sure what this is. Simulation points. Okay. Great. So let's just cache this out. Background. We'll let that go. And I will port this in here, although there's not going to be anything just yet. Because it hasn't. Now it's loading from disk, so it should be. Yep, there we go. Because right now we're looking at this one. There we go. It should disappear. Perfect. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use this debris source reset. Because there was no first frame. I don't know why that didn't reset it. Okay, so we've got that, and then it's probably gonna freak out when it gets to the end here where it doesn't have any frames. Yep. Okay. So what this is doing is watching the breaking that's going on here, right? So it's watching the simulation break apart. and it has points that it's scattered all over these geometries. And so as they like kind of fall apart, you can see they're being activated. We've got an age here. You've got a distance threshold for the release. And so what we can do is a few different things here. So let's first of all, let's turn off the remove unreleased. So these are only the released points that we're going to see right there. So we can source, from these points that are now released into the simulation. Now, obviously they're lasting a little bit too long. They wouldn't be kind of doing, they wouldn't be releasing points if they're just kind of sitting there like that. So let's turn the age down a little bit. Oh, I know the other reason. The other thing we can do is remove them at the end of their life. So here we've got like a second, they come out and then they die off, right? So let's turn this down a little bit, maybe to like that. We can get some. Yep. So now we've got these kind of releasing and then going like that. Cool. So the other thing I want to do, I'm going to turn this off just so I can see them, is let's up the density scale. So maybe we'll do like, I don't know, something like that. It's kind of interesting. So now we're going to have a much denser point cloud here that we can kind of source little pieces and crumbs from. And we could simply do a pop network, not a sim, pop network. Put this in here. It's just pretty straightforward. We'll do a gravity force here. And instead of scattering onto surfaces, we'll just do all points, I believe. That's what we're going to want. Yep. Obviously, there's no ground plane in here, so we can do that as well. Ground plane and merge those together like so. Yep. They right now they're just kind of bouncing up and down, which is a little funny. They should also be getting the inherited velocity here. We can add a little bit to that inherited velocity, maybe just like 0.3 or something. We don't want it to go too crazy, but so it's got a little extra. And so then I'm going to just make sure that these both aren't too crazy. So let's see, physical here. We don't need it to be bounce of 1. We can do like quarter. Oh, I want to check the physical on this. Yeah. Okay. So let's try that. So we'll turn the bounce down a little bit. Yep, that's looking a little more realistic as far as that goes. Let's turn the friction down so we're not infinitely frictionless here. Let's turn the friction down maybe on this a little bit. Maybe we'll do both of them at half. Or less. I don't know. It's weird. Okay. Maybe the problem here is our life is very, very short. Wait. It's not short. Where are the points going? Where are they dying? Oh. Right. I'm giving these, they're getting a life. Here. It's weird. It has an age and a life here that it's getting, so that we're just gonna remove those. Put that in here. Okay. That's why they're dying. I'm like, why are they dying so quickly? It's a little strange. Yeah. That seems a little bit more at least realistic as far as what they should have been doing. I was so confused. All right. Probably too many. We could probably lower the density on those. A little too many crumbs. All right, let's do 5,000 instead. Cool. Cool. I mean, it's overkill, but you get the idea. Just see if maybe points is better. Those are probably going a little too long, but you get the idea. So now if we looked at both of these together, so now we got some little crumbs going on here. And in fact, we could up the scale of these pretty easily. Redo that sim because it's literally just particles and it's going to resim pretty quickly. So yeah, it's I know. I love Houdini too. That's why I do this for my job because it's great. Not this, but talk about Houdini for my job. It's great. So then the only other thing you might want to do there is add in a a static object that's pointing to the SOP path, which would be, I mean, we could just port this in here, get some, this would just be op input path, and then like that, and it'd be 1. I believe that should give us the right thing. Yep, there we go. So what that's doing basically is saying not what's input into this node, but what's 2 levels up. So not dot, but dot dot. And so it's just a path structuring thing. And it's just returning the path of object, sim cookie break, RBD IO, which is what's coming into that. And should be used to forming geometry. And then that's colliding with it. So, if you want it to, let's see. I think some of these things you'll see it actually colliding with that geometry as well. So it'll kind of bounce off of it. Got a little jitter there, but conceptually it is what it is. So, yeah, that's it's getting somewhere, right? So, Anil, hopefully that has sort of answered your question a little bit. Obviously you're going to want to tweak it and, adjust things here or there. Some of these things you can see are kind of going absolutely bonkers. What you can do with those, for example, is, as I mentioned before, I do have the drag spin on here, but instead of that, you could come in here and do a pop speed limit. And I guess you could do it maybe post solve. Basically, it just means before it hits the solver step or after. So let's just say the maximum spin is going to be 1. I don't know. Let's see. That might be too much. We'll see. So let's give that a second to sim here. We can obviously recache that if you want to, but what this should do, oh yeah, that's way too much. You can see that they're like barely moving at all now. Yeah, they're basically, I'm not allowing them to spin. So let's set this to maybe like 5, and that should give us a little better look. But basically that's just telling the angular velocity to be constrained within 5, basically, just so we're not getting some extraneous stuff that's like flying around like crazy. So yeah, that stops some of these ones that were like absolutely going insane before over here and just kind of rolling around. So it's a way to help constrain them if needed. So just, it's all about kind of getting in there and tweaking those final last little things. I could sit here and do this probably for another hour or so and get to a better spot. But Yeah, that's kind of the idea here. So, um, I am going to take a quick break just to get myself a drink because I am slightly thirsty and I didn't set myself up with a drink tonight. So I'm going to do that and then maybe we'll just play around with some. Um, oh, no problem. Wow. Hey, like I said, just getting to talk to the developers and stuff like that was huge and helped me figure out what I was missing, which was soft constraints or hard constraints. You could do either one. They both work fairly similarly. In fact, I'm not 100% sure even what the exact differences between them. And I think you could possibly get better um, results if you, instead of using the center of mass, if you just do the surface points, because then you don't need to do this craziness here because they're already all just as individual points. And if we select these and turn them off, their rest lengths should already be 0 because, or very close to it. You know, they don't have really much length to them. So if we did that, you know, that's going to be a little bit of a different way of doing it. It's going to be a few more constraints to solve possibly, but you know, I don't know. Maybe this will be better since I'll just click the button and see what happens. This guy's going crazy, but anyways, yeah, that actually does seem a little more stable. So that's probably a better choice. Why this thing is going absolutely bonkers over here, not sure, but it might just be the shape of those. It's almost like they have motors. That is so funny. What is happening there? Let me try one more thing here. These, let's change them to softs. Okay, let's see if that's any better. Last thing, I promise. I just get too excited tweaking these things. I just want to play with them all day. Just love simulation stuff. That one shot off so far. Huh. There are still these like little like ones that are just like walking around here. I wonder what the deal is with that. Huh. Well, if you want walking cookie pieces, there you go. Nailed it. Anyways, what's going on here? Why do we have a little error? Oh, it's gone. Okay. All right. I'm going to take a quick break, probably like 5 minutes, something like that, just to get a drink. And when I come back, maybe we'll play around with some procedural modeling stuff that we had asked about in our in the topic suggestions on the Discord channel. So maybe we'll do that next and see where we go. Um, cool. I'm going to take, like I said, I'll take a break. We'll be back. Coffee break. Drink break. Be back. All right, we are back. I have beverages, so we're ready to go. Um, okay. So what I'm thinking was, let's see. So this guy, one of the guys, Theo, was asking about, like, hey, how would we do some fungi growth or something like that? Um, how do we do something, growing or whatever like this? Um, you know, I'm not 100% sure how we're going to do it, but we're going to play around and see what we can do. Um, so yeah. Side note, hey Zach, thank you so much for your kind post. I'm glad you're learning stuff from us. I saw you posted something on Twitter, so I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. That is a very kind post. Um, so yeah, let's do that. Let me make sure this is saved, and let's make a new guy here. A lot of times oh my gosh, yeah, no problem. Like I said, that's kind of my job. So this is just the fun extra part of my job where I get to just play around with random stuff. So super glad to do whatever's possible to get any information out of my brain. And sometimes there's times when I realize I don't have any information in my brain, and that's its own thing too. But yeah, no, I'm glad to be able to do whatever I can. I mean, kind of just paying it forward in a way too, because I mean, I learned a lot from like Intagma and those kind of guys that were kind of these had first come over from Houdini right around the same time that I had learned about it, and so I, have a lot to thank them for. In fact, I got to, yeah, gosh, their names are. Oh, Moritz, that's right. Moritz was at SIGGRAPH, and I got to chat with him and just say thanks for everything and stuff like that, which was a nice thing to be able to do in person and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I've learned a ton from them, and so anything I can give back in that regard is I'm glad to do, because really, learning isn't. I'll get philosophical for a second here. Gosh, I'm sorry, my microphone has been such a butt recently, or my stand. I'll get philosophical for a second here. So I find that if you try to hold on to your knowledge and act like it's your own special thing that nobody else can ever get, you're not really going to get very far, especially in this industry. Because for you to know some unique thing that nobody else knows is going to could maybe be for a second, maybe in the scheme of things, maybe a week, and then someone else is going to figure it out. And then, you're going to be like, okay, well, I held that information to myself and I was super greedy with my knowledge. And then a week later, didn't give me any advantage. But I think being as kind as you can in this industry in some ways, like, yeah, it's cutthroat. Yeah, there's people that want your jobs and things like that. I'm in a small market, so I live in a very small place where I'm maybe one of a few people that know Houdini. I actually don't know anyone else in my city that knows Houdini, but if they're there, it'd be great to know. But you're not going to get ahead by keeping all of your information to yourself. You're never going to be able to have proprietary information for very long. And I think sharing is a much better way of existing on this earth. So, hey, it's worked fine for me. Maybe that's just survivor bias, but I think that's my 2 cents. Anyways, back to Houdini, away from philosophy or whatever that was. Soapbox, maybe. All right, let's do like a tree here. Let's call this like a geo tree. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Zach. I'm glad you can agree with me on that one. All right. So if you haven't seen before in labs, There is I think it's under world building. Yep, tree. So there is a bunch of stuff here. So let's grab the trunk generator. Drop that guy down. So now we've got like a tree trunk here, at least something sort of tree-ish. Entish. Me and my wife we work together in the same office, this little tiny office that I'm in. And we've been listening to the Lord of the Rings audiobook, which has been very entertaining. So we just met Treebeard in the audiobook, so it's been very entertaining. Anyway, so we've got a trunk. So this we can use for some, whatever. That's fine. If you haven't used this before, it's a whole package of tree elements. So like there's a tree controller, I believe. And where does this go? This goes into here. So this will control. That's weird. This will control the tree. And then if you wanted to, oh yeah, look at that. It actually got more noisy. Interesting. There we go. Cool. So then you could also do something like a line here. You could pipe that into there. It's super short. But then we could make this, however tall we want it to be. And then we could do something like a bend. If we wanted it to be bent over or something. Let's give this a couple extra points. Cool. And then we can just set up the capture. So, but that is the wrong direction. So we want it to be, yes, we want it to be like this. And then we can hit N and fit the capture. Look at that. That is nice. Always look at these little hotkeys. They're very, very handy. So now we've got this like bendable tree thing going on here. So yeah. I mean, we could just kind of do something like that if we wanted to, just to have some. Sure. Cool. And then if you want to, you can do a tree branch generator and drop that down. That's not going to be the right one. That's weird. So we'll select those both like that, and then they'll start to make branches and, so on and so forth. You can kind of mess around with it. So if you haven't used that before, kind of a cool little pack of tree type things that you can work with in Labs. Labs has so many good things in it. So if you're not using it, shame on you. Shame on you. You should use it because it's awesome. And the Labs team is awesome too. I'll show his Twitter handle. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm gonna pull it up real quick. Mai is awesome. He's really cool. Yeah, his last name is AO. So that is interesting, but he leads the Labs team. So if you want to give him a follow, here's his Twitter. Go check him out. Mai's awesome dude, and he is in charge of the Labs team. So and they create a lot of really cool tools. So anyways, let's just do this. Let's just put down a null here so we can grab the mesh output. You could also see here there's a curve output as well. So that makes it really nice to be able to work with this. If you wanted to do something with Vellum or something like that, wanted to do some sort of soft, do some sort of simulation after the fact. And here also you can see that this has a branch ID of 0, and this has a branch ID of 0 as well. This curve. So, you can make these things however you might want them. You can use them however. So let's look at this suggestion stuff. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do this, but let's just take a look at this thing here. See what we got. Let's see. So we've got these kind of like random circle-y things, I guess. Kind of interesting. I don't know. They're kind of weird. They're such strange shapes. Are these fake? I actually didn't even check. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think these are real. I think. I don't know. Is it bad that I can't tell if these are real? Oh, man. And that's really cool, but I'm not 100% sure even what to do with that. Hmm. Oh, that could be kind of cool. Maybe we'll try something like that. Yeah, let's do that. Cuz that I can wrap my head around right now at 9:45 p.m. All right. So, we've got the trunk geo. We don't need the curve. Oh, yeah. So, the Discord server is on you can just go to houdinihangout.com. I'll post that in chat. Oh, I typed it wrong. My bad. Sorry. That's right. Not two O's. So there's just like a calendar and things like that on the site. And you can get to I should sorry, I'm not the best at promoting myself. You can get to the Discord server that way. And you can also, if you'd rather watch on Twitch or YouTube or however you choose to watch, I'm on both, so I'm kind of streaming on both. But yeah, so you can get to the Discord invite that way. There's also the chat is technically live on the Discord as well, so if that's beneficial, I don't know. I just set it up because I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But yeah. So if you want to chat that way, cool. I don't know. I'm I don't understand. I don't understand all of the Discord stuff and the streaming stuff. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I don't want to say I'm too old for that, but I did just turn 37, so I'm getting inching closer to 40. So I'm definitely feeling like I'm a little out of touch, but it's life. All right, so we've got the trunk geo here, geo tree. Yeah, we can just do it in here. That's fine. I usually like to make them separate, but we'll just leave them all in one thing here. All right, so let's paint like an area where we want this stuff to grow, kind of make it a little nicer. So let's do attribute paint, and we can just use mask. That's fine. We're just gonna use the middle thing here, and let's just kind of paint an area here. Cool. I don't know. I use the control click. I don't know. We'll just kind of make some shapes here that are sort of interesting, have some growth. Kind of thinking we'll just kind of be in here anyways. Okay, cool. So we have a mask. Let's just do a scatter. And instead of using density, we can use the mask for that. And now we've got those points there. I swear this microphone is going to drive me absolutely up the wall. Anyways, okay, that's a little better. All right, so we've got our points here. Let's turn the relax iterations down a little bit, or we could do. You can kind of go a couple different ways with this, but you can change the radius scale, and that's going to just kind of adjust how those are being pushed apart. Or you could do the relax iterations, and that's just going to make less times that it checks, how close they are in proximity. So either way works fine. Let's turn the count down. I don't know, 100? That might be too scattered. We'll do like 150 maybe. Oh, thanks, Andrew. Andry? I think it's Andry. Sorry. I'm trying to read that. Yeah, Andrew, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm just doing whatever, just doing the best I can. So I'm glad it's worthwhile for you. All right, so let's do a scatter here, and let us also let's get the normal from this, or it should have the normal already, right? Yep, looks like we got the normals already, which is good. Cool, we've got our normals. Now the reason it has those normals is because this trunk had normals to begin with. So this has vertex normals. You can tell the difference by these green versus blue. Blue means they're point normals. So in this case, once we're scattering here, we don't have vertex attributes that are getting copied over. It's just point attributes. So it's converting the normal to a point attribute. It's converting everything to point attributes, basically, that were on points or vertexes. So there's UVs on here as well, normals. So all these things here, point attributes. Now the primitive attributes, I don't think, yeah, they don't get copied over. So anyways, we've got 150 points here. The other thing that I found recently is this instance attributes, which is a really fun little node, again from labs. And I think we talked about this maybe it was last time. I don't remember when it was, but it's a really fun way to kind of be able to visualize what you're doing with your instancing or copy to point, you know, what you're getting out of those nodes and things like that, like what the point attributes are doing basically for orient and scale and things like that. So I'm going to turn off this because we're not going to be doing any variance, but what we can do is do some point transforms and things like that. So we could do spin. You can see here we can just do that uniformly or randomly, so we can get some random spin here. We could change the amount, so we could have it just be a little bit, like, so maybe it's like -45 to 45, something like that. And what we can do is do a copy to points, and maybe I'll just take like a little grid or something like that. It's probably gonna be too big, but we can scale it down. Yeah, obviously gigantic. So, I mean, this is the really nice thing here, is that this has all of these attributes kind of built into it, right? So like uniform scale is already here, which is great. So we can turn this way down and actually see what's going on here. So we've got all these little things here, and oh, that's the only bad thing. We'll turn the guide scale back up because we don't want it to be that small. So let's do it at like 1, maybe 2. I don't know, something like that, so we can still see them. And then we've got these. Awesome. So let's just try this. Let's turn the point transform and just do it uniform and set it to 0. Yep, great. So that's good. Yep, these are all looking good. Now the thing to keep in mind is that this grid is transforming based on the centroid here of this object. And what we could do as well is we could just set this to 0.1, and let's turn this and just transform it down a little bit. Probably is an easier way to do this. And we'll do this like 0.1, something like that. Great. So now we're a little smaller here. And what I could do as well is do the match size. I like the match size to get this where we might want it. And what I'll do is I'll justify, in this case, we'll do, I think it's the, and this is kind of the nice thing about this. We can look at these. In fact, oops, wrong click. There we go. We can actually see what axis we're looking at here. So in this case, when we copy these to points, we've got the y-axis is pointing up and the x-axis is pointing to the side here, and the z-axis is the one that's pointing out, right? So we know that the z-axis is pointing out. So if we come down here and make sure that it is along the z to the minimum, then we've got this set up so that it's now anchors here. When we look at these copy to points, come back up, they should now be anchored to the minimum right there. So now they're all sticking out. And if we were to, do that, we can see that those are all kind of sticking out like that, which is cool. So they're all starting to do their thing. All right, cool. So that's nice. What we can do here is we can, let's see, we'll adjust some of these things here. So let's do this 2.5, cool. Let's grab this again and adjust some of these things. So here we can randomize the P scale. So we can make some bigger, some smaller if we wanted to. So maybe we'll do 0.75 to 2 maybe-ish. Then we can change the element size. So you can just see how this is going to change. We could have it really noisy where they're all going to be taking like really random things and there's not like going to be any like specific look to it. Or we could go really kind of big where it's these big kind of sections that are getting either smaller or bigger. So you can kind of play around with that. So maybe we'll do 0.5, something like that. And in this case, we're sticking with that. And then, yeah, let's change this a little bit. I'll do random. Cool. Looking good. Now, the other thing that we could possibly do here is we could set up, I think we can actually get the P scale from this, in fact. So, yeah, that actually might be a better bet for us. So that when these things are closer, they're going to have smaller P scales. And they're not going to overlap quite as much. So that's maybe a better thing to do in this case. So we could just then adjust the actual scale of them from here and kind of just get them in a spot where we're happy with them. So, maybe it's like that, something like that. Cool. Yep. So we've got these things going on here. And yeah, so now this is the interesting thing here, right? Welcome to our new folks. Let me just look at this again and see what we got going on here. So, all right, we've got these kind of fan-shaped things, which is interesting. Yeah, so I'm making a fungus. The planes are just right now, just so I've kind of got an idea for what I'm doing. I don't think that's what I'm going to end up using. It's just they're for right now. They're just kind of my, I don't know. They're just kind of existing for me right now, just so I can see where these things are getting scattered. My plan is, I don't know what my plan is. I'll try to figure that out in a second here. I'm like thinking of, this is Houdini, right? There's 8,000 ways to do things, and what's the right one and what's not. There is no not right. It's just what's the better option. So, edge of my seat. Yeah, me too. Okay, I've got an idea. So I think what I would like to do is use some sort of a spine type of a thing to help curve these things down, right? And then maybe from there, what I'll do is maybe what I can do is have almost like the way you would with like a feather, if you can think of that. Like you can kind of have with a feather, like you can have this kind of centerpiece and then these other things kind of come off of it, right? So instead of them being like these little tiny things that kind of, these little pieces that come off, maybe what we'll do is have it be like a sweep geometry, but it'll start kind of really small and kind of sweep. I don't know if that'll work. I was thinking maybe that would work where you could have it like sweep outwards, but that's not going to make the shape of these. So the interesting thing is they're all like, oh, that could work. So I guess if I think about it this way, they're all, each of these things here. Let's see if I can open up this image just by itself. There we go. So each of these things has these like strips that come down them, right? So it's almost like I can have each and every one of these things be their own little stem and then connect them together across the length of them. Yeah, I think that's the best way of doing like this one specifically, because you have this kind of center thing. Each of these branch out and we can kind of adjust how they go in position. So yeah. I like where that's going, that thought, if that made any sense to anyone, but made sense to me. So that's maybe the most important part right now. So okay. Yep. I've got some ideas. All right. So we have, instead of maybe this type of a situation here, maybe what I should do is just do one of them, then copy them. That'd probably make more sense. Yeah, let's do that. That's going to make infinitely more sense. All right. So we've got that. I can merge in the mushroom in that thing, and now I've got this set up here. Great. Let's do this. Wedge noise. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you could certainly do, you could use PDG and do a whole wedging setup for it for 100%. Yep. It's no question. I probably won't do that for this just because I don't think that would be super necessary in this case for what I'm doing particularly, because I'm probably not going to have too many different options, but all right, let's do this. We'll do geo, call this guy mushroom. I think that's what those are, mushrooms. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to hide this, the wrong button. There it is. Okay, cool. So let's start with like a little, oh, no, I think you're right having the ability to randomize stuff based on like attributes and stuff like that. Like I definitely am not going to be doing any like copy stamp stuff. There's definitely way better ways of doing that nowadays. I haven't come across a scenario recently where like I've seen somebody go, oh, you got to do a copy stamp in this case. I mean, maybe there probably are still some, but I haven't come across it. So, but yes, certainly. Oh, gosh, I remember when everything was a copy stamp, and now you can kind of get away from it. Okay, so let's make this at origin. Let's do. We'll just do a. Gosh, there's always a million ways of doing stuff. I'm just thinking of that little like center lump. Totally just overthinking this. Yeah, I'm just going to do a tube. Forget it. I'm just going to do a tube. Doesn't really matter. All right. I think I can do this at, yeah, I'm going to do this at full scale because the P scale is going to scale them down. And it'll be easier to work at 1-to-1 scale or like meter scale, in this case, unit scale. All right, let's just do a size here to get us at the ground plane. Cool, let's do, don't need to do too many here because these will be small. So let's just do like 24. And we'll just do a, well, I guess we don't need to do a polyfill. We can just do caps. And then I will just select the edges here and do a poly bevel just to make a little kind of flat nubby thing. And you know what I could do here as well? I could do a couple. Oh, no, you know what? That's gonna, yeah, that's fine. We can just. Yeah, you could do that too with like the, where it's like the diffusion stuff. Yeah, you could, you could certainly get some mushroomy looking stuff from that. Man, that was like 100% like the rage, like, I don't know how many few years ago. And I've seen some people doing things like that, but you definitely don't see it as much anymore. All right, I'm just gonna get like a little central. That's not what I wanted. A central nubby thing here, and then maybe just do like a mountain deformer on this, and we'll make sure it doesn't go in Y. And we'll turn the scale down a little. Kind of make a little lumpy guy like that. I don't know. Kind of stupid, but let's just do one more thing here. I'm going to do a do an edge. Yeah, it's total classic. Classic. Connect those, close them. Just gonna make a couple more down here. Just make it a little more interesting shape-wise. Cool. Cool. We got a little center thing here. Nice. Okay. So let's do this. I want this to be in like an arc. Maybe it's like a 120-degree arc around it. We'll have a bunch of little lines come out. Yeah, let's do that. All right, so we've got that. That's kind of our, I'm just going to name this, give it a null and name it stump. And let's do a circle. 1 second, what the heck was that? What's a circle spline? What's a circle spline? That is. There's too many nodes sometimes. Sometimes you don't know them all. You never know them all. All right, so why is that upside down? That's obnoxious. All right, let's do an open arc. We'll do -60 to 60. Let's just template that. And do that. And we'll just bring the center up here a little bit. I just want to see how many points we've got. Yep, that looks pretty good. All right, so my idea of what we're going to do here is, let's actually do this at like, let's do this like 80. No, sorry. Do this at 100 and -100. Okay, so then we're going to do let's do sorry, no. Just going to do a line. And okay. 10 to start with, so we're not getting too crazy here. And let's just do this a copy to points. Yep, those are just going to go up. It's fine. What we're going to do, though, is we need to get a normal here out. So let's see here. We could do, let's see if a normal, what that will get us. I don't think it's going to point outwards, but we can try. Yeah, because it's just a, all right. So what we can do is we can do a, what is it? Orientation along curve. So this is going to give us a couple different things we can use. We're probably going to want to use the out, is my guess. So there's the out. Yep, perfect. So what we can do instead is kind of tweak these a little bit. We have out, up, and N. So if we want to, so if we copy these now, they're going to try to go in the normal direction, I believe, or up. Sorry, they're going to go in the up direction, which is going to be down in this case, which makes no sense, I guess, but when I'm saying it. Let me see here. Let's also grab the up so we can see this whole thing. Up. There we go. So there's our axis right there. So let's just color those differently. Let's do that one green. And let's do that red. Oh, a little easier to see. Okay, so we're going in the red axis in this case, which is sorry, should have colored those the other way. Out is X, so why don't we do that red? And then up is green. There we go. Sorry, my bad. Okay, so there's our axes. So let's just change this a little bit. What we can have this do is it'll use the up and the N to kind of get our direction. So let's just change out to up. We can actually, we can turn this one off and let's see what that does. Yep, that looks good. Kind of what we're hoping for. Great. So I'm just thinking about how these are going to exactly go. And I feel like what I'm going to want to do is I think we're going to want to have some sort of attribute that is you're able to control the curl up on them as they go down. And I feel like this is going to be a little tricky. So we'll maybe get to that last. Maybe next week that'll be a thing. I might have to play with that a little bit just to think about how that's going to work, because it's probably going to be like a vex or something like that. But anyways, okay, so we've got these here. What we can do a couple things. We can also set this. We can do a resample here, And instead of resampling how far the points are across, we're going to turn this off and just output the curve view attribute. And that should be giving us here our curve view. And so what we could do is we can remap that. So we can do a float attribute adjust float. And we can use that. Let me turn these off so we're not seeing those anymore. So, oh, right. P scale's at 0. That's why it's at a constant value. So what I'm going to do is do a remap attribute. We're going to source from curve view. And you can already start to see what's happening here. But we've got tiny ones over here and big ones over here. And so our source range is going to be from 0 to 1. But what we're going to want to do is remap. Yep, there we go. That's what we want. So we're going to use this ramp here to make this look the way we want it to. So let's do this, and we can bring this guy down here. We don't want this to be at 0. So we can do it like that. And in this case, let's click this one to select down here. Let's maybe do them as a B-spline. I feel like that's always a little bit more interesting because it's, allows you to be a little bit smoother with it. And we can kind of come in here and adjust these around and make them, how we want. So in this case, we have, this going on here, and we can, you can shape this however you might want. Maybe something like that is interesting for now. Cool. So now we're starting to get these, spiky looking things coming out of this. Maybe in this case, what we want to do here, instead of having this line with a bunch of points, is we do this just to have 2 points. So then we get it like that. And from here, we can do a resample, right? Because this is going to then allow us to divide this in sort of a more even way, right? So that they're all going to have roughly the same length. So maybe here we do 0.05, something like that. And then we're going to roughly have them all be divided more or less the same way. And as we change the ramp here, right? So as we change this, they'll grow, but the segments will stay roughly the same size, right? So that's kind of a nice thing as well. And we can also turn this curve view on again, and that is now going to calculate each of these individually to have their own curve view attribute. And so what we could do from there, actually, you know what? That could work. So really all we need to do is just, I'm just thought of this. All we need to do is just have these go up, and it'll sort of look like it's curling upwards if we do it the right way. We can have just a ramp of it moving up and Y. So there's a couple different things that we could do here. Yeah, let's do this. We'll do curve view, and we'll also use curve number. And then that way we have 2 attributes that we can work on here. So if we want it to curve up more at the edge, we can have it, we can remap the scale of how far these go up based on the curve number and also based on how far they are down. So that's good. So those 2 are very, very helpful. Okay, let's do a VOP because that'll be maybe a little easier to see what's going on. Let's do a point VOP here. And let's jump inside of there. All right, so we're going to need the curve view. So let's do a bind, which is just your standard kind of import into VOPs if you're not familiar. We're going to grab the curve view, which is a float. And let's also grab the curve number because we're going to use that as well. Maybe not right at first, but we'll use that eventually. So we'll do this curve number, and that's going to be an integer. Now, just so you see that this will certainly scale, the way that we can change this is by changing the divisions here. So as we go like this, we can get a much finer, you know, amount of these little divisions here. But probably best to just kind of let that be for the time, just for a second, just so that we can you know, make sure that we're actually, you know, getting this working without having, you know, to worry about too many of them. So we can go back to maybe we'll just do like 20 or something for right now, or like 15. Cool. Okay. So let's do this. What we will do, so curve view now is going from, in fact, we can visualize that. Let's grab the curve view. Instead of being color, let's do it as a marker. We can see the numbers this way. So those might be a little hard to see. Let's do large. There we go. Hopefully you guys can see that. So, all right, so we've got these going from 0 at the base to 1 at the tip, which is great. That's exactly how we wanted it. I think if that was backwards, you would just change the way that this line is, like the way it's copying, like the direction. But I think we're good because we started out with, I think, just 0. Well, in this case, yeah, it actually copied that onto it. But if we turn this, that off. Nope. Never mind. Anyways, I think it's good because of the way that we've set up that line. So won't get too much more into that. Okay, so we know that we want 0 to kind of stay in place and 1 can go up. So that's nice and easy to deal with. Let's do this. Let's do a vector component. We'll do a get vector component. Oops, we're going to do P. We're going to take the second component, which is the Y. Just an easier way than using like the split vector thing. Sorry, just thinking if that's even necessary. No, I don't think it is, actually. Maybe? I don't know. Let me think about it. It's getting later. The brain, it's starting to go. Let's see. Let's do a ramp parameter. That's what it is. So funny enough, I just recently watched a video that was somebody was talking about the old school way of doing a ramp parameter. And what people used to do was they would keyframe things, like they'd keyframe a property and like animate it using that curve editor. And this was before ramp parameters existed. And they would then use a lookup function to look it up based on the time. And it was like this whole crazy way of using animated parameters as ramps to like change how they went, like to use the same way you would a ramp parameter, which is just like, to me, is the craziest thing in the world. But I guess if you didn't have it, you didn't have it. But anyways, what we're going to use this for is we're going to take the curve U in as an input, and we're going to remap from 0 to 1 and adjust it here based on the 0 to 1 values here. So we're going to bring that in. We're going to change it here. So maybe what we'll do is something like, well, actually this is just the default. This isn't actually the one that we want to change. So I'll just leave that. So it's spline ramp. We'll call this, I don't know. What are these things called? Like they're little like veins? I don't know. Oh, actually, I'll call this, yeah, vein curl, and we'll call this like vein curl ramp, I guess. I don't know. So that's just going to show up when we come up here. We're going to have this vein curl ramp setup going here. It's okay. Let's go back in here. All right. So yeah, what we can do is we can, let's just do an add for right now. I think that's all we're really going to need. We're going to take that and that, and then we'll do a set vector component. Maybe this won't work. Oh, yeah. Okay, there we go. That's what I want. So there's my vector. There's my float value. Just move this out a little here. Just use some of these guys to make it a little cleaner. Alt will bring up these little dots if you want to adjust your line so you can see what the heck's going on. Okay, so that'll set the vector component, and then P. But I'm setting that on X because I didn't set this to that. Great. Okay. They're flying in the air. Okay. So we're getting somewhere. Let's turn off these visualizers. We don't need that. So what we can also do here is we can set a multiplier, and that's probably going to be in our best interest. So let's just move this over here a little, and let's just do a multiply with this, and I'm going to promote this parameter. We'll just call this curl scale. Vein curl scale. So the name is the actual parameter name, so that's why you can't have spaces in it. It'll freak out. Doesn't like that, so he makes it underscore. So that's why I'm camel casing those. Okay, so then if we come up here, we can just adjust the scale here a little bit. Yes, it's working. Great. Cool. And then we can take this. Why don't we adjust this to be a B-spline as well? That won't really change anything at the moment, but then when we bring, hey, come down. We do this. Now we've got some curly little veins here. Kind of interesting. Yes. Cool. Okay. Getting somewhere. And so again, should be if we change this. Yep. I like that. That's fun. The other thing we could do as well at this point is we could allow for some of these to get have some noise added to them. So let's do that as well. Noise is always fun. So what we'll do, I think, is have curve U drive the noise, and it'll only be able to get added as it kind of comes away from this. So we could kind of fit that. So let's just do this. Let's do a fit range. Pull this from there. Oops. To the value. We know it's 0 to 1 right now. And so let's also do a noise. Just do like a turbulent noise, I guess is fine. Grab the position. We only need 1D noise, and we can just do something like simplex. The amplitude does not need to be that high. It could be very small. And we'll change some of those things in a second. So the fit here is going to go, oh, right, that's going to go into the amplitude. So then what we could do here is add this in. Yep. We're getting somewhere. So then we can adjust this frequency. Funky. All right. And what we want this to do is, actually alligator noise might be better because I think that's only positive if I'm remembering correctly. We can turn the maximum down here. Cool. can do some stuff to tweak this in general, but I actually think the simplex was a little bit nicer, even if it's like going up and down. There we go. That's getting pretty fun. Let's just see what this looks like. It's too tall. Our stump is too tall. That needs to be smaller by far. Or these just could be longer. This up a little bit. Sure, something like that. And we're getting somewhere here. So I should probably promote these attributes up, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. I can just kind of jump around and get these working. Now what I'm thinking I'm going to need to do is like loft, or not loft, what's the word? Like connect these all together basically. Got to think about how to do that the best way, but yeah, we're starting to get somewhere with these. So it's kind of interesting. From there we might do like a sweep. Oh, what is the one? Labs Polywire UV. I wonder if how that's looking. This is supposed to be a really nice. That's actually kind of interesting. This actually has UVs on it now. They've like tweaked this and made this a little bit better. The width is too big, but we can do like. We can have that. Like I was kind of thinking that those will be like the veins for it, right? And then we'll have it kind of coming out of this thing like that. You know, something to that effect. Just with having the pieces inside of it as well, you know, like the little like some connectivity between them as well. So yeah, it's getting there. It's something right now. It's not amazing, but it's something. Obviously adjust that as well and have it curl up even more at the end, something like that. So yeah, you can see you've got a decent amount of control here over these. And yeah, we're starting to get a little something, man. It's wild looking. So I think what I'm going to do, which I don't love doing, but it is almost 10:30 and I've been going at it for a couple hours here, but I think I'm going to cut it here for tonight and we can come back to it next week. I'm also thinking that I might be trying to like stream just some random times and things like that. So just keep an eye out for Twitter because I might be doing some more streams like here and there as I have time. But another thing too, just totally off topic, as hopefully this was interesting to see some procedural modeling type stuff. I haven't really done anything like that on this channel before, as far as I know. As far as I can remember, I've been doing it for a few months now, several months since December. One thing I actually just started learning about today was how muscles work in Houdini for characters and things like that, which is super interesting. Might not be the most useful thing in the world, but If you are on the Discord server, drop, let me know if you're interested in muscles, and I could see what we could do. It's just a very interesting thing. It uses Vellum, but for muscles, and it's in beta right now, so it's still like we're still kind of this whole play. They're still tweaking some of the settings and things like that for it, but it's pretty neat to do. And actually, if you've followed the releases and things like that of Houdini, I think it's been in beta for like 2 or 3 releases now, and I was, for a while until today, I was thinking, man, that's been really taking a while to get this muscle system working. Must be really hard to do. But what I found out today was that they had built the whole system to use the FEM solver. And then when they released Vellum a couple versions ago, they were like, oh crap, we should probably use Vellum instead, because this is a much better soft body solver than the FEM, or not better, but it's quicker, and it doesn't have some of the overhead that FEM does. It's a little quicker, basically. And so they had to rebuild the whole system in Vellum instead of in FEM. So it was kind of a calculated move to say, well, we're going to just bite the bullet and still not release it yet. But we're hoping that will be released in full very soon. But it's really neat. The stuff that's in there is really cool. And so if anybody's ever interested in muscles, I would be happy to show how that works with my limited knowledge, but I do have some now. But anyways, that's where we will end the stream for this evening. So, hopefully this is sort of interesting. We had a little bit of our RBD simulation stuff, and now we're doing some weird moldy mushroom growy things that we'll keep tweaking and playing around with a little bit next time I stream. But hopefully that is something that is interesting to you. And if not, you can always drop ideas in the chat. There's in the Discord channel, there's a whole section there for suggestions for topics. I'd love to hear anything that you guys are interested in seeing. There's been a few different things about Vellum and stuff like that that's been asked. And so, I'm always curious to see what people are interested in and see what we can do to, to be answering questions and things like that. There's also a help section on the Discord server that if you need help with something that you're working on, I'm happy to give my best suggestion with it, and we can go from there. So please feel free to use that Discord server for questions and thoughts and comments and whatever. So I try to keep as on top of that as I can. So so thank you guys all so much for being a part of the stream tonight. It was definitely a lot of fun to get to hear from you guys, and that you're learning things from this. So that's kind of the most important thing. So again, HoudiniHangout.com. You can find the Discord server and links to both of my channels, whether it's on YouTube or Twitch. Obviously, you found this on one, so if you want to view it the other way, please come join me there. So I will see you guys all next week or sooner. Please keep an eye on Twitter and the Discord server for announcements of when I'll be streaming. So that'll be it for tonight, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.